Welcome back once again. My name is Mr. Charles. In today's video tutorial, we will be discussing on bipolar junction transistor. Sometimes it is called junction transistor. So in this case, we will be discussing on this topic, bipolar junction transistor, and which in my previous video I gave you some examples of transistor, and bipolar junction transistor is one of them. And that was an introduction that I made. So in today's video, I will go more deep details on this topic today, and that is the reason why I told you that as time goes on, we will go into deep on each of the topics, just as I promised. But before we go straight to the topic, I would like to say, please, if you like my videos, subscribe to my channel, comment, like, and share. So in that case, let's proceed from this today's topic. The abbreviation of bipolar junction transistors is BJT. In case if I'm to mention BJT, you don't need to get confused on it. In this topic today, we'll be discussing specifically on two different types of BJT, which is called NPN and PNP. So those are the two topics that's involved in this BJT transistor. So in that case, bipolar junction transistor have three terminal: name, emitter, base, connector. The name indicates that it has two junctions between P type and N type, which it simply means that those two junctions that it's talking about is talking of NPN and PNP. But once we go into it, I believe that you will understand what it simply means by two junctions. The two junctions which I will like to explain a little bit now is that on that process of, let's say, NPN, which has negative, positive, negative, the two junctions that he's talking about is in between. Since the P is at the middle of the double NPN, it simply means one of the P is one junction, the other side of it is also one of the junctions. So that is the reason why it says that it has two junctions. So in that case, since it has two junctions between the P type and N type semiconductor, the BJT transistor are classified into two. They are classified into two, which is NPN transistor and PNP transistor, depending on their construction. Depending on the construction so far. The BJT transistor are current control device. Remember, I have already mentioned this before in my previous video that this one is current control device, while the other one, which I mentioned in my first video, we talk about feed-in transistor, is a voltage control device. If small amount of current flows through the base of a BJT transistor, then it causes to flow large current from emitter to connector. That is, if amount of current passes through base connector or base, it only causes a large amount of current to flow through emitter to connector. That is in terms of, because those are the things that you should also bear in mind. It's very important. Why? Because it's very important if you are discussing the BJT transistor in anybody, you are discussing it with anybody at all, you should be able to know how it works, because these are the principles of the BJT transistor before going specifically to the construction aspect of it, which we will be specifying either the NPN or the PNP. But before we go to it, we will also discuss on the three regions in which BJT also work on. So in that case, just as I said that it causes the flow large current from emitter to connector. The BJT transistors have low input impedance, and it causes to flow large current through the transistor. Now the question is, maybe you might be hearing of what is an impedance. Some of you might know, which I believe also, and some of you might not know. It's just as a simple as that. But I won't just forget about what impedance is all about, so that you will not be confused. Say why this name is being impedance. So in that case, let me go straight to definition of what impedance means, so that you will not get confused in case of necessity. So what is an impedance? Is the amount of resistance that a component offers to current flow in a circuit at a specific frequency. That is also let you know that impedance is also a resistance. It will resist a current when current passes through a specific component. So impedance offered a resistance so that the so-called current will not have or will not overshadow or damage the component that is the current is passing through it to deliver or give to any other component. So that is the reason why in this junction is trying to say that the BJT transistor have low impedance, and it causes why? Because the resistance in which it offers is very low, so it will allow a large current to pass through it, and that is what I mean by that. So let's proceed now. So the BJT transistor are only the transistor which are turned on by the input current which is given to the base. You know, sometimes current starts coming from the base. From base, it will, once a small current is passing through the base, so it will cause a large amount of current from emitter to connector. It simply means that current passes through the base. From that base, it gives to emitter. Then from that emitter, it gives to connector. Connector will be the one to give it. Connector is just like an output. Let me put it in that form. Connector is just like output. During the process of delivering the current, connector is always the one that take the current out to delete or to give it to other components, depending on how the circuit has been constructed or has been made so far. So that is how it works. Let's say when a current of 0.5, I'm assuming, I'm not saying that that is a current that used to go through the base. When a current of 0.5 has been given to the base, definitely on that process, once it gets to the emitter, the current will increase by 0.15 is an assumption. Then from there, from that emitter, it will give it to connector. So connector it will reach up to, let's say, 0.20 and 0.20 amps. From that, the connector will be, which is according to how the constructions of the circuit has been made so far. So that is what I mean by that. So in that case, for that issue of turning on state by the input current which is given to the base, as long as current is passing through that base, it simply means the base will be on the on state, so that current will be passing constantly to deliver according to how the component has been constructed, or the components, how the component has been constructed. Let me put it in that form. So BJT transistor can be operated in three regions. So the number one region in which it operates is cut-off region. Cut-off region, the transistors is in off state. That is when the cut-off region, the transistor is in off state. It simply means that, let me put it in this way, the component is not on. The current is no longer passing through it. So it simply means that the transistor is in off state. That is, the current flowing through the transistor is zero. It simply means current is no longer flowing through the transistor, so it remains on off, cut off state. So another one is active region. Active region, the transistor acts as an amplifier. When the transistor is active, something that is active, it simply means it acts as an amplifier. You remember what I told you, that the main purpose of a transistor, they act as a switch, also as an amplification. So those are the two main functions or function of a transistor so far. So in that case, when it is in active region, it acts as an amplifier. That is the second aspect of it. While the third aspect of it is saturation region. Saturation region, you know what saturation means? The transistor is in full on state and also work as a closed switch. So that is to tell you, on this process, transistor performs the two stages. It performs the two stages, which it also performs as an amplification as well as a switch. And when the process, when it acts as a switch, is when it is in full on state. That is when it's performed as a switch, and on that process, it also performed as a closed switch. So bear it in mind. So these are the three regions of a transistor. Most importantly, BJT transistor. So let's go to types of BJT transistor, which is NPN and PNP. NPN first, which is negative, positive, negative, which has the same two regions, just as I said before. NPN transistor is one of the two types of BJT transistor. The NPN transistor consists of two N-type, being two negative type semiconductor material, and they are separated by a thin layer of P-type semiconductor. So in that case, the P-type will be at the middle, in between the double N. So in that case, in NPN transistor, the majority carrier are electrons. Electrons simply means a negative. Just as I said, a negative is the electron. Negative, positive, negative. Whole is positive. So the majority carrier are electrons and holes are minority carrier. That is in terms of NPN. So the flowing of current or the flowing of electrons from emitter to connector form the current flow in the transistor through the base terminal. I repeat, the flowing of electron from emitter to connector forms the current flow in the transistor through the base terminal. I know some of you are confused of that. On that process of emitter when current flowing, when electron from emitter to connector form the current flow in the transistor through the base terminal. It simply means on that process, when current is passing through base, it gives to transistor, from transistor to it gives to emitter, from emitter to connector. So a small amount of current at base, a small amount of current at base terminal causes to flow large a small amount of current at base terminal causes to flow large amount current from emitter to connector. NPN transistor has the mobility, it has a mobility of electron is greater than the mobility of hole. And that is why if you have to write the equation is also different. So before then, let me just show you the configuration of the so-called NPN transistor, how it look like. These are the symbols and structure for NPN transistor. And just as I say, the base there is a positive, which is called the B type of material, which is in between the NPN and the PNP. The so-called emitter and connector, once this is it is in between the base and the connector, and this here where you see the arrow going up, here is the base, here is the connector. The arrow going up signifies current moving up. Maybe I may also make a mistake here. Maybe this arrow may be the one that gives current, but all I know is the current move from base to emitter, from emitter to connector. That is all I know about this, and that is how it works as well. So for summarization of all this is the full construction of NPN transistor. This is the complete construction of it. Both the symbol and the construction or structure of NPN. So let's go straight to PNP, the PNP aspect of it. That is what we are discussing now. PNP, it simply means positive, negative, positive. It's similar to this NPN. In PNP, the NPN, in PNP, the base is negative. So let's proceed. PNP transistor is another type of bipolar junction transistor. The PNP transistor contains two P types. semiconductor material and are separated by a thin layer of M-types semiconductor. So in that case, the majority charge carrier in the PNP transistor are holes. And remember, the majority carrier in NPNs are electrons, while in terms of the PNP, it is holes. And electrons are minority charge carrier. The arrow in the emitter terminal of transistor indicates the flow of conventional current. It shows in the emitter terminal of transistor indicates the flow of conventional current. In NPN transistor, the current flow from emitter to connector. In NPN transistor, the current flow from emitter to connector. The NPN transistor is on when the base terminal is full to low with respect to emitter. So I also want you to see the configuration, the symbol and the structure for PNP as well. This is how it look like. Here it signifies the same thing, just as I said in my when I was explaining that one. This is the conventional current, and here formally where the PNP in that NPN, the positive is in this place. Here now is positive, negative, positive. So negative is in between them, and these are the full complete structure for PNP, and these are how the structure look like. And I think when we will be discussing, when I will be showing you the practical of PNP and NPN, how to read them, how to know the NPN and how to know the emitter and connector, I think you should be able to identify them on your own after teaching you the how it works. I believe that you have gotten something for this today's class, and if you don't really understand, you can also comment below. I will enlighten you more any of the area that you're about to ask questions. Please, if you like my video, subscribe to my channel, comment, like, and share. Thank you once again for watching my video. See you next week.